Welcome to the Daily Vibecasting. Today, Stripe drops $7 billion on an AI bet that half the timeline thinks is useless, autonomous AI agents are getting their own credit cards, and the U.S. economy flashes a massive red warning sign.
Yeah, we're really tracking a collision here between infinite digital ambition and, well, very finite physical and financial constraints. Someone is inevitably going to be left holding a really expensive bag.
Right, so welcome to this deep dive into the timeline. If you're joining us, you know our mission by now, right? We don't treat the timeline as just like noise or a collection of memes. We treat it as raw market signal.
Exactly.
My role is to bring you the high-stakes moves and just the sheer velocity of what's happening right now. And joining me is the analytical edge, the one that cuts through the marketing fluff to figure out, the actual mechanics of who is making money today.
Because there is always a huge gap, a significant gap between the press release and the balance sheet. And my job is just to measure that gap.
Okay, let's unpack this lead story because it's a massive market disruption. Anikeiko, under the handle at NS123ABC, detailed this finalized acquisition today.
Oh.
Stripe has officially bought OpenRouter for over $7 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, $7 billion. To put that into perspective, OpenRouter was founded in 2023.
Just last year.
Right. And just a few months ago, they were valued at $1.3 billion. Today, they are exiting for $7 billion. Now, for anyone listening who might not be building apps right now, OpenRouter is what we call an inference marketplace.
Yeah, it's a router.
Think of it like an Expedia or a travel aggregator, but for AI models. So instead of a developer integrating separately with OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google, they just write one piece of code to OpenRouter.
Right, and it automatically routes their prompt to the cheapest or fastest model available at that exact millisecond.
Exactly. But why does a payments company need that?
Well, see, I look at this deal with a lot of skepticism, and I am definitely not alone here. Cremu, at Cremu Riku on the timeline, posted this viral critique today that really captures the technical reality.
What's the pushback?
They argue that manual model routing is essentially a temporary Band-Aid. Like, from an engineering standpoint, every time you add a middleman to an API call, you're just introducing latency.
Right, an extra network hop.
Exactly, an extra hop before the AI even starts thinking. Cremu's point is that within a year or two, we are going to have native infrastructure that self-routes internally, right at the silicon level.
Oh, wow.
So the question is, why is Stripe spending $7 billion on a highly inefficient layer that is, frankly, likely going to be outmoded?
I buy the logic on the latency, definitely, but the math feels off to me if we assume Stripe is acting purely on the tech. Stripe doesn't strike me as a company that really cares about the latency of an extra network hop.
You think it's about the lock-in?
Yeah, I think they are buying the billing infrastructure. If you look at OpenRouter, they take a tiny, tiny fraction of a cent on millions of compute transactions across dozens of different model providers.
Right, the volume is insane.
Exactly. Stripe wants to secure that financial lock-in. They want to be the default ledger for all machine-to-machine compute spend before the next iteration of AI makes OpenRouter's specific tech obsolete.
They're buying the toll booth, not the actual highway.
Right. But exactly how much that toll booth can generate is becoming a huge issue because the cost of driving on that highway is just skyrocketing right now.
Oh, the DeepSeek news.
Yeah, there is an update from at OpenCode today regarding DeepSeek. They officially hiked the API prices for their V4 Flash and V4 Pro models. We are seeing price increases ranging from 50% up to, get this, 1,100% in some token categories.
1,100%. That's just brutal.
The reasoning they gave is surging demand. So they're implementing a peak versus off-peak pricing tier, basically just like an electric utility company.
Well, because the underlying mechanics of running a data center dictate this, right? We often talk about the cloud as if it's this ethereal, infinite space.
Yeah, like it's just floating up there.
But it's not. It is ultimately just millions of specialized servers drawing massive amounts of physical electricity and water for cooling.
Right.
When you have an entire global industry querying AI models simultaneously, you literally hit the physical limits of the local energy grid. DeepSeek raising prices by 1,100% isn't just price gouging.
You think it's necessary?
It is load balancing. They are forcing developers to run their heavy, non-urgent batch processing tasks in the middle of the night when the grid actually has excess capacity.
Yeah, but that load balancing has immediate downstream casualties.
Right.
OpenCode Go, which is a popular subscription service providing open source AI coding agents for like $10 a month, had to scramble today.
I saw that.
They had to cap usage at $12 per 5 hours or $30 weekly. Their team is running what they jokingly call Operation CheapSeek to find cheaper alternative.
Operation Cheapsake, wow.
Yeah, but if basic API calls are jumping 1,100%, I mean, is the AI business model actually sustainable? The fundamental economics of wrapping a subscription service around someone else's AI model seem completely broken now.
The economics are straining everywhere. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, if we zoom out to the macro level, the bond market is flashing red.
Oh, the Ray Dalio post.
Yeah. Unusual Whales posted a very sobering quote today from Dalio. He stated that the U.S. is, quote, past the point of no return on debt.
That's a heavy statement.
It is. He's looking at $7 trillion in government spending against only $5 trillion in revenue.
And Dalio compared that specific debt burden to arterial plaque restricting blood flow in a human body. That's a grim analogy, but let's break down what he actually means for the listener.
Right.
When the U.S. government runs a deficit, they have to issue treasury bonds to borrow money.
Exactly.
But if there is falling demand for those treasuries, the government has to offer higher and higher interest rates just to convince investors to buy them.
And that rising interest rate, that is the arterial plaque. When the risk-free rate of a U.S. Treasury goes up, the cost of borrowing capital goes up for literally everyone else.
Right.
If you are a venture capital firm, why would you take a massive risk funding a downstream AI startup with broken unit economics like we just talked about,
Boy,
when you can get a guaranteed high-yield return from the government?
you wouldn't.
Dalio points to the looming threat of financial repression, where the Federal Reserve might have to step in and artificially suppress those yields just to keep the government solvent.
So if you are listening to this on your commute or at your desk, you might be wondering, why you should care about the bond market when we're talking about tech and AI.
The connection is capital velocity.
Exactly. The tech sector requires practically infinite capital to build out these data centers to train the next generation of AI models.
But if the bedrock of the global financial system is clogging the arteries of the actual economy, the cost of capital skyrockets.
Yeah. Who is going to fund Stripe's next multi-billion-dollar acquisition if the bond market breaks? Right? Or who pays that 1,100% premium on DeepSeek tokens? The infinite digital scaling we are so used to is just slamming into the wall of finite financial physics.
But while the macroeconomy faces those constraints, the microeconomy of AI is actually attempting to bypass human financial systems entirely.
Yes, here's where it gets really interesting.
Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, posted today about the launch of Via AI. We are seeing the infrastructure for an entirely autonomous agentic economy being laid down right now.
AI agents are literally now being issued their own lines of credit.
It's wild.
The technical execution of this is fascinating. Via AI gives an autonomous agent a credit score based purely on its developer's GitHub profile.
Wait, their GitHub profile?
Yeah. A bot crawls through your code history. It assesses the quality and consistency of your contributions, assigns a risk profile, and then provisions a wallet directly to your AI agent.
That is surreal.
And then that agent uses Coinbase's open HTTP by 402 protocol to make stablecoin micropayments in line. For a little bit of internet history context for you, whenever you hit a broken web page, you see an HTTP 404 error.
Right, not found yet.
Exactly. The 402 status code was originally drafted decades ago to mean payment required, but it was never really utilized because we didn't have digital native money. Now they're reviving it for machine-to-machine commerce.
The architectural shift here is just profound. I mean, an autonomous agent can now hit a paywall on an external tool.
Like the Search API or Firecrawl?
Exactly, and it can instantly authorize a microtransaction to unlock it. It completely bypasses the need for a human to create an account, enter a credit card, manage an API key.
It's seamless.
It is, but
That's nice.
let's track the liability here because the second-order effects are really concerning to me. If an agent has a line of credit intrinsically tied to your GitHub profile and your digital reputation, what happens when it encounters an edge case?
Right, because AI models still hallucinate.
Exactly. If your bot gets stuck in an infinite loop and queries a paid database 1,000,000 times at 3 in the morning, who gets left holding the bag? Who covers that loss?
I suppose you could build in, smart contracts with hard spending caps, but yeah, the liability risk is very real. For this agentic economy to gain any mainstream traction, the UX, the user experience, have to abstract away all of that complexity.
It has to be flawless.
We are finally moving past the chat window era. Lee Robinson, a software engineer at SpaceX AI, praised Grokbot's zero UI approach today. The concept of zero UI basically means the best interface is no interface.
Right. No typing prompts.
Exactly. Instead of opening an app and typing a prompt every time, Grok relies on a very thin client device connecting to persistent cloud computers.
And a persistent cloud computer means the AI doesn't lose its memory every time you close the tab. It maintains a continuous session state. It keeps context on whatever projects you are working on, and it has direct browser control. It isn't just generating a script for you to run, it is actively navigating the web, clicking buttons, and executing code exactly like a human operator would.
Yoon-Ta Tsai, a senior staff engineer at Tesla AI, showcased how that looks in the physical world today. He requested an integration between his Grok bot and his Matic robot vacuum.
Oh, I saw this video.
Hours later, the feature was pushed live. He now uses natural language, literally just talking out loud to his persistent cloud brain to command the vacuum. And the Matic isn't a basic bump-and-turn Roomba, right? It has complex 3D mapping and self-cleaning HEPA bagging.
Yeah, the hardware is incredibly complex.
But the interface is literally just human speech.
It creates this beautiful illusion of seamlessness. But we have to acknowledge the intense brute force engineering required under the hood to maintain that illusion.
Oh, that's...
The gap between the massive cloud models and the realities of local hardware is severe right now. Noam Brown, the researcher behind OpenAI's O-series models, had a highly relevant post today regarding codecs.
What's his take?
Well, the entire industry is currently obsessing over expanding the context window, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to hit 1 million tokens so a developer can just stuff an entire enterprise code base into a single prompt.
Yeah, everyone wants a bigger window.
But Brown is actually pushing in the opposite direction.
Right.
He is advocating for a process called auto-compaction at 900K tokens.
Okay, to make that tangible for you listening, think of a massive context window, like a giant piece of luggage.
A huge suitcase.
Right. Having a 1 million token suitcase sounds great because you can pack everything.
Yeah.
But when the AI actually needs to find a specific piece of code, it has to dig through thousands of irrelevant files, which creates massive latency and degrades the model's reasoning. So auto-compaction is essentially a digital packing cube. The system quietly distills and organizes the most relevant information before it ever hits the main processing layer, shrinking the load down so the model stays sharp.
And that is the core of elegant engineering. Raw context size is just a vanity metric if it wastes compute and slows down the output.
Right.
You can technically force a 1 million token window in models like GPT 5.6 Sol by editing the configuration files, but Brown advises against it. Efficiency has to take priority over sheer scale, especially when we look at the bottlenecks on the user's end.
We saw a perfect example of those user-end bottlenecks today on the timeline. A developer named Sui at Bertabo posted a viral demo of Three.js.
Oh, the alien technology post.
Yeah. For context, if you are not a front-end developer, Three.js is basically the engine that allows your web browser to render complex 3D graphics natively without making you download a separate video game client. They were running this dynamic ocean scene with ray-marched volumetric clouds and a highly detailed pirate ship. They joked that Three.js is alien technology because their M1 MacBook Air, which has 8 gigabytes of RAM, was absolutely choking.
Melting down.
The laptop was hitting severe thermal limits and struggling to even render 20 frames per second.
The physical thermal limits of an M1 chip attempting to render visual data really puts into perspective the sheer engineering required to move actual physical hardware in the real world.
Exactly.
If a laptop is choking on pixels, imagine the compute required to calculate physics for a robotic actuator in real time.
Which brings us to the physical world and this showcase from CyberRobo today. Sonovo released the Prima 1. It's a 22 degree of freedom robotic hand for industrial manufacturing.
The video of this is terrifyingly fast.
It really is. They made a massive architectural leap here. Historically, robotic hands were tendon-driven. They used internal cables mimicking human tendons to pull the fingers, but, cables stretch and introduce mechanical latency.
Right.
The Prima 1 is entirely direct drive. Every joint has its own miniature motor, providing instant, high-precision torque. It has tactile sensing on the fingertips, and it moves significantly faster than the human eye can track.
Wow.
When you watch the CGI render overlaying its joint ranges, it becomes very, very clear that humanoid robots are going to fundamentally disrupt physical assembly lines within a matter of months, not decades.
But this raises an important question, right? I look at the direct drive motors, the persistent cloud computers, and the agents holding stablecoin credit lines, and I have to ask the broader societal question.
Do people actually want this?
Exactly. Do people actually want ubiquitous AI integrated into every physical and financial aspect of their lives? The trust deficit is massive right now. TechCrunch's Equity podcast dedicated a segment today to the intense public skepticism surrounding Mark Zuckerberg's recent essay, The Future is for Everyone.
Right, where he's pushing for personal AI agents.
Yeah, he's aggressively pushing for models like Glimmer and Muse Spark that operate continuously in the background of your life.
Well, the pushback is entirely predictable when you consider Meta's track record, right? The public was sold a vision of a globally connected social square a decade ago, and the mechanics of that platform ultimately optimized for algorithmic anxiety, polarization, and ad revenue.
Right, the engagement farming.
It is incredibly difficult to convince that same public to trust the same corporate structures, to build an autonomous agent that reads their private emails and has access to a digital wallet.
And the leadership within the AI industry is highly aware of this deficit. Kalshi shared a statement from Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei today that was surprisingly blunt.
What did he say?
Amodei admitted that the AI sector has not fulfilled its grand promises to society yet. The public is currently just seeing the downsides.
Right, the strain on local power grids for data centers, the scraping of copyrighted data, the disruption in the white-collar workforce.
Exactly, and marketing campaigns are not going to bridge that gap. Amodei stated that the only way to win back public trust is to, quote, actually cure cancer.
Wow, he is setting the highest possible bar. But, the strategy makes sense. Anthropic is pivoting heavily into biology and medicine, forecasting that AI could compress a century of biological research into the next 5 to 10 years.
Right.
If you want a skeptical public to accept autonomous algorithmic spending and direct drive robotic hands replacing factory workers, you have to deliver a civilization-level breakthrough.
An incrementally faster router for a $10 coding assistant is not going to justify the societal disruption.
No, it's not. And who is actually benefiting from this relentless technological grind? The mechanics of that disruption are already taking a heavy toll on the people building the technology.
Oh, the cost of living data.
Yeah, AI researcher Lucas Dyer at Gifmana on the Timeline shared a Numbeo-based scatterplot today that ranked 306 global cities, mapping the cost of living directly against the quality of life. The data reveals a glaring paradox.
Well, right, because premium cities like Zurich and Geneva sit exactly where you would expect in the top right corner.
Yeah, they are incredibly expensive, but the infrastructure, safety, and overall quality of life justify the cost. But the recognized AI hubs, San Francisco, New York, London, they lag terribly in quality of life relative to their massive expense.
I think there was even a statistical oddity where Islamabad ranked strangely high on the quality metric compared to several major Western tech hubs.
Yeah, which is wild to think about.
But we constantly hear the consensus about network effects and the necessity of talent clustering.
Right, everyone has to be in the Bay Area.
Exactly. But if the data proves that quality of life is demonstrably better and cheaper in secondary markets, why does top-tier AI talent stubbornly chain itself to the most extensive, highly regulated, highest-stress geographic areas?
It's a great question.
I look at the venture capital feedback loops. Who really profits from keeping talent trapped in the Bay Area? It's the commercial landlords, the local tax bases, and the investors who require geographic proximity to keep a close eye on their founders.
Yeah, it is certainly not the engineers grinding 80-hour weeks in cramped, overpriced apartments.
Not at all.
I tend to agree that the in-person collaboration requirement is often just a tool for investor oversight. And while those engineers are fighting 1,100% API price hikes to build infrastructure that might make them wealthy one day, the timeline is showcasing the absolute extremes of wealth happening concurrently.
Oh, the champagne story.
Yes. Bloomberg ran a feature today on Olivia Fernie, a luxury travel expert who just broke the Guinness World Record for the largest champagne bottle service presentation.
The bifurcation of capital here is staggering when you connect it back to Dalio's macro points from earlier.
Exactly how bifurcated it is becomes clear when you look at the mechanics of the event. Her luxury events cost a baseline of $1 million.
A baseline.
Yeah. To break this specific record, she orchestrated 69 waitstaff, simultaneously spraying premium bottles for a single ultra-rich client. The bar tab for the Dom Perignon alone exceeded $226,000.
That's just absurd.
We were just talking about developers capping their spending at $30 a week because the money supply is constrained. And yet there's a tier of the economy where capital is sloshing around so freely it is quite literally being sprayed into the air as a spectacle.
And Alex Hormozy posted a psychological framework today that perfectly diagnoses the mindset driving the people at the bottom of that wealth gap.
The delayed gratification trap.
Yes, he warned about this trap. The psychological mechanic is that once you train your brain to master delayed gratification, you simply never stop.
You just keep pushing it out.
Right. You become exceptionally good at putting off your desires to build the company, to ship the next code update, to hit the next arbitrary milestone. You keep delaying gratification until you die, and the hypothetical reward you were optimizing for never actually materializes.
So what does this all mean? It is the ultimate synthesis of what we are seeing across the timeline today. We have thousands of brilliant engineers building $7 billion routing layers, designing direct drive robotic hands, and writing packing cube algorithms for context windows in ultra-expensive cities where their daily quality of life is objectively poor.
Right.
They are enduring all of this friction in the name of delayed gratification, building the infrastructure for a future they are forgetting to actually live in. And they are doing it while someone who already bypassed that struggle is dropping $250,000 on a champagne stunt.
It forces a brutal reevaluation of what the tech sector is actually optimizing for. And if we track these converging trends forward to tomorrow, the trajectory is pretty clear.
What's your prediction?
As autonomous AI agents begin holding their own lines of credit via the BY 402 protocol, the infrastructure is currently moving significantly faster than the regulatory guardrails. Within the coming weeks, I predict we will see one of two things. Either sweeping, reactive regulatory pushback on algorithmic spending limits, or a massive high-profile hack where a bot is manipulated into draining a corporate treasury entirely on its own.
The friction between our digital ambitions and physical constraints is definitely about to spark. And I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over as you step away from the deep dive today.
Yeah.
If an autonomous AI agent has a better credit score than you do, if it can use stable coins to pay for its own server space, and if it can independently hire external tools to generate its own revenue, wait, at what point does the AI become the employer and you become the employee?
That is the defining economic question of the next decade. Thank you for joining us as we analyze the mechanics behind the noise.
Keep your eyes on the timeline, and we will see you next time on the Daily Vibecasting.